Good evening. It is September 1st, and welcome back to Cape Media News, your source for hyperlocal news that matters. I'm Lauren Williamson. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health has announced the detection of the West Nile virus in a mosquito sample collected from Barnstable. This marks the first detection of the virus in the area for this year. Although no birds or humans have tested positive for WNV so far. The virus is primarily transmitted to humans through mosquito bites and poses a higher risk for severe infection in people over the age of 50. The MDPH recommends several precautions to avoid mosquito bites, including wearing long-sleeve clothing, using insect repellents, and mosquito-proofing homes by draining standing water and installing tight-fitting screens on windows and doors. Local authorities are working closely with MDPH and Cape Cod Mosquito Control for ongoing surveillance and control efforts. The town of Harwich recently terminated its tax collector, Betty Clark McClay, at the end of her 6-month probationary period. Select Board Chair Mary Anderson cited the termination as a personnel issue, but declined to comment further, and the search for a new treasurer and tax collector is already in progress. Town Administrator Joseph Powers had initially described Clark McClay as highly qualified for the position, but he was unavailable for comment on her departure. This latest termination adds to an ongoing concern with the town about frequent departures and retirements of department heads, with Select Board member Donald Howell calling for a full discussion on why people are leaving their positions. In response to an influx of migrants and a growing housing crisis, the Massachusetts state government had plans to use the Yarmouth Resort in West Yarmouth as an emergency shelter for up to 100 migrant and displaced families. The state has designated 120 emergency shelter units across Cape Cod, including other towns, to meet the increasing demand. However, the Yarmouth plan was put on hold after it was discovered that the building did not possess a certification of occupancy, according to State Rep. Chris Flanagan. The emergency shelters are part of the state's efforts to deal with more than 20,000 people, including families and pregnant women in need of housing. The state says it spends $45 million per month on its emergency shelter program, which also received a $1.9 million federal grant. A Facebook group titled Citizens Concerned About the Yarmouth Resort was started on Sunday, and by Wednesday had over 1,300 members. The group has organized a protest at the Yarmouth Resort at 10 a.m. Saturday morning. TravelMag.com recently put out a survey for the most expensive beach vacation destination in the world for August 2023. The survey had certain criteria in order for designations to qualify. First, at least one beach, a minimum of 20 hotels and inns, with at least 10 rooms available per establishment, 3-star rating, and centrally located to the town and beach. Airbnbs or other vacation rentals were not included. From everything that was qualified, TravelMag.com then calculated the average price for the cheapest night's stay in a double room. Nantucket takes the crown in the top spot as the most expensive beach vacation in the world, averaging $694 per night, more than a $200 increase from Positano, Italy, which is number 2 on the list. The United States is home to 11 of the top 20 destinations, with the other 9 all in Europe. New England is represented by 5 destinations: Nantucket, Kennebunkport, Provincetown, Bar Harbor, and Portland. U.S. Representative Bill Keating announced last Wednesday that the Federal Transit Administration, or FTA, has granted the Woods Hole, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket Steamship Authority route commuter status. This allows the service to tap into an annual federal funding pool of over $5 million. This move comes after collaborative efforts between Representative Keating, the Cape Cod Commission, and ferry service ridership data. The new commuter service classification provides the authority with a consistent source of federal funding, which will alleviate financial pressures and potentially lower fares for riders. Steamship Authority Communications Director Sean Driscoll said, quote, As a self-funded agency, every dollar we spend is generated from our ridership. So anything we can do to offset the burden on the ridership, the lower we can keep our fares. The state legislature created the Steamship Authority in 1960 to provide adequate transportation for persons and necessities of life of the islands of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. Around 2.9 million passengers used the ferry service in 2022 alone, according to the latest annual report. The Yarmouth Housing Authority has proposed building up to 49 housing units on around 19 acres of land off Forest Road in West Yarmouth. And in 1989, the land was given to the Housing Authority by the town for the purpose of affordable housing. In 2022, the Housing Authority voted to dispose of the land to an affordable housing developer to design, permit, fund, and build and manage the property. The development project has been in consideration for approximately 40 years, and a due diligence assessment was completed in 2022 by Bowler Engineering of Boston. There's a history of previous attempts to develop the land for housing with various proposals and authorizations over the years, some of which were rescinded or deemed not legally binding. Local residents have expressed resistance to the housing project during a forum. They fear that the development can lead to deforestation, worsen flooding issues, and negatively impact the water table. The project's engineers and planners have highlighted that the soil on the proposed site is conducive to managing stormwater runoff. They suggest that the stormwater requirements will be carefully considered during the design process. As tensions remain between the need for affordable housing and the environmental and flooding concern raised by local residents, the project's planners and engineers are aiming to address these concerns as they move forward with the development plans. The proposed timeline includes finalizing due diligence in the fall, releasing requests for proposals in 2024, reviewing proposals in May 2024, and aiming to begin construction in fall 2025. In various towns across Cape Cod, the list of top earners is not limited to administrators or managers. Instead, in many cases, police officers, fire lieutenants, and patrol officers find themselves at the top of these lists. This is particularly evident in towns like Barnstable and Yarmouth, where overtime and detail pay can often more than double the salaries of these public servants. However, these augmented incomes come at a steep cost, both to the individual and the communities they serve. Long hours, high stress, and the inevitable strain on personnel and family lives are negative ramifications that accompany excessive overtime. Adam Riker, the union president for Yarmouth Fire Department, raised concerns about the safety implications of such work schedules. He was quoted saying, "At some point, is this getting unsafe? Are they working too hard?" End quote. The culture of overtime is not only a function of willingness to work, but it is often a necessity. Departments must maintain a certain level of staffing around the clock, leading to instances of forced overtime when employees are unavailable. In Barnstable alone, 32 of the top 50 earners are police officers, who collectively earned over $1 million in overtime in the fiscal year 2023. This brings up the questions of sustainability and fiscal responsibility. As towns on Cape continue to grapple with these challenges, it becomes increasingly crucial to find a balanced solution, one that ensures both the safety and the well-being of public servants and the financial sustainability of the communities they serve.